Hi, in this video we are going to learn how to use sine rule. So basically, in a triangle the lengths of sides and the angles across each side has a relation. Namely, A over sine A, B over sine B and C over sine C. These are comparisons, relations between the side lengths and the angles across. So A over sine A is equal to B over sine B, which is equal to C over sine C. Now, sometimes you may see this equality in upside down position, right? Both is used, and actually what happens is if you want to calculate a side length, then you use this one because it's easier, and if you want to calculate an angle, then you use this one. So the idea is you have to have the unknown side or the unknown angle at the top of the fraction. Let's see an example. In triangle ABC, AB is 8, angle BAC is 30 and angle BCA is 40 degrees. Well, the question is find the length of BC. Now let's visualize this. We will have a triangle, right? And it doesn't matter which sides you call, which vertices you call as ABC, but once you name them, you have to put each of these information properly, right? So if AB is 8, this side is 8, BAC is, well, it's the angle A, right? So this is 30 degrees. Now, my angle does not look like 30 degrees, it's more like 65 degrees or something. However, it doesn't matter, we're just sketching a diagram to visualize the given information, right? So, BCA, which is the angle C, is 40 degrees. See? I mean, the angle C is 40 degrees, angle A is 30 degrees, yet they look as if it's the opposite situation, but doesn't matter, we're just sketching. Now, question is find BC, so we're asked to find the length of BC. Right, so I'm going to use this one as sine rule, right? Now it doesn't matter if you're using this one and this one just because you have the angles named as A and C. These letters, these unknowns are like dummy unknowns. It could be anything, and in other questions you would end up with triangles PQR or whatever, and O. I mean, it could be anything, right? But the sine rule is given with ABC. So these are dummy variables. Don't worry about which you're using. Just you need to have two of these to substitute the values so that you can find the unknown. Alright, let's do that then. So for sine A, I'll be using this. So it's going to be across the angle is of course x, so I write x over sine 30 degrees equals, now across 40 degrees is 8, so I'm going to write 8 over sine 40, right? And I'm going to just multiply both sides by sine 30, right? Sine 30, I'm multiplying both sides, sine 30, so that I can simplify these and leave x alone, and on the other side it's going to be 8 times sine 30 over sine 40. This is when I use my calculator. I just write everything here in the sentence and calculate the value. Now this gives me 6.22 and so on. Now generally speaking, we write the side lengths to be 1 decimal place or sometimes 3 significant figures according to what the question asks us to, but the angles are generally 1 decimal place. Now in this case we write our answer to three significant figures. So it's going to be 6.22 up to three significant figures. In this example, we are asked to find an angle measure, right? So again, let's visualize this. It's going to be a triangle, and it doesn't matter what you write, A, B, C, let's write it here. And then AB is 3.8 centimeters, and then BC is 5.2 centimeters, right? And the angle given is BAC, so I'm looking at the middle letter, so it's going to be this angle being 35 degrees. Now I am asked to find ABC, namely angle B. So that's the one that I don't know. Right. Now I'm going to use this time this version of Sine Rule because I want to find an angle measure, so it's best if I have it at the top. Well, if I use the other version, it might be a little bit tricky to leave the angle measure alone. So this is easier, but if you'd like, you can always use one version and play with it. Alright, so let's start. That's gonna be sine 35 over across the angle we have 5.2. This will be equal to now I know this side, so I have to write the length of this, right? But across this side is this angle, angle C. So first of all, I have to calculate angle C, right? I can't directly find the value, the measure of angle B straightforward because, well, this side is not known and there is no way I can find it. But this way, I can calculate angle C, and then these two will add up together with this 180, so I can add these two and take away from 180. Right, let's start. So that's gonna be, I'm going to leave this one alone, so I multiply both sides by 3.8, so that I'll have these cancelled out. I'll have sine C equals 3.8 sine 35 over 5.2. I have to do one more step before I reach my calculator. Right, I'm going to write down C equals sine inverse of whatever I see here, 3.8 sine 35 degrees over 5.2. This inverse function will give me the angle measure. So I'm going to have 24.781 and so on. Now, I'm not rounding my answer yet. I'm going to go like 35 plus 24.781 and so on equals 59.781. At this point I could go with two decimal places, right? It could be approximately 59.78. Now 180 minus 59.78 will give me 120.22. Now according to the question, if it says give your answer in one decimal place, you could end up with 120.2, or if it says three significant figures, then you just write 120 degrees. So it depends on what the question asks you to do. And at this point, when you find your final answer, it's best to go back and check whether there is any information in the root of the question. So basically this is how we use Sine Rule. Of course, the questions will be a combination of other information together with Sine Rule, right? So you have to figure out your own way or strategy on using Sine Rule. Now, there's another point I'd like to mention. Now, sometimes you may end up with two angles where the sine of these angles give you the same value, because we have this rule, right? So basically, sine 60 degrees is the same as sine 180 minus 60, which is sine 120 degrees. So these two angles, when they add up to 180, when they complement each other, then you can say the sine of these values are the same. Or it could be any angle pair which adds up to 180. It is like sine 52, which is equal to sine 128 degrees, right? These give you the same value. So this means in a triangle you could either have an obtuse angle, like let's say 128 degrees, or an acute angle, which is say 52 degrees. If you're given this angle and these side lengths, then you're going to end up with two values for the angle. Now, the thing is, the questions will indicate that. So you will be aware that you should be finding two values of angles, right? So let's see an example and you'll see what I mean. Right, in triangle ABC, AB is 4, AC is 3, and angle ABC is 44 degrees. Work out the two possible values of the angle ACB. Alright, let's visualize this. So we start with our own proper, acute angle triangle, and I go like, well, it's asking us ACB. Fine. Let's write triangle ABC, right? Now I am given AB to be 4, AC to be 3, and ABC, this angle, to be 44 degrees, right? So the question is, what is this angle? ACB, right? So if we calculate this, I'll go like sine of the angle C. Across that we have 4, right? And sine of 44 on the other side over across 44 is 3. Now, to leave sine of C alone, I will multiply both sides by 4. I'll cancel these out. Sine C will be 4 sine 44 degrees over 3. Hence, C equals sine inverse of 4 times sine 44 degrees over 3. Now I'm going to have 67 degrees, and the decimal part is 8, 5, 1, and so on, right? And I could round this to one decimal place, so this will approximately be 67.9 degrees. Now, this is the first possible value, alright? It's, let's say x equals 67.9 degrees. All I have to do now is to take away this angle from 180. So I will have the second value to be, let's say this x1, x2, to be 112.1 degrees. If you check on your calculator, 67.9 and 112.1 will give you the same value when you calculate the sine of these angles. Now, what does this mean? This means we don't know which triangle we're talking about. It could be this one with an acute angle of 67.9 degrees, or this one with an obtuse angle of 112.1 degrees, right? So we don't know which angle we're talking about because the sine of both angles are the same. But again, In one way or another, the question will somehow indicate that you should be finding two values, or sometimes it will ask you to go with one of the values, either an obtuse angle one or an acute angle one, right? Now, there are plenty of questions in the textbook, so there is no online self-check with this. Please follow up with the blog to see which questions you're supposed to solve from the textbook. Thanks for watching.